Read all about it. Morning paper. Council buys park.
Extra, extra, read all about it. The pinball wizard and the miracle cube. Extra, extra, read all about it. Extra.
Alright, so first thing, before you write your story, you need to consider who is your audience. Are you writing for a general audience? Are you writing for a niche audience? Okay, now there are two general approaches when you think of writing a very basic news story. You either answer these 5 questions.
Who? What?
When? Where?
Why?
Or you answer 3 questions. What? So what? Now what? Keep that in mind. Now we're going to talk about the structure of your news story. You've got basically 4 elements to work with. The lead, what we call the nut graph, quotes, and your background. So you've gone out to an event to cover it. It could be a protest, it could be a meeting of a civic association, it could be a press conference with an elected official. You have all your notes of the environment, you have your notes of who spoke and what they said. Now you have to organize it. So again, the lead, depending on the format you're working in, sometimes you get one sentence, some places will give you a whole page. But the lead is sort of a poetic setup for your story. But it must sum up the essence of the news event. The second piece, the nut, is sort of the context of what the lead is. The lead you have to think of as what happened, and the nut is what does it mean. Typically, if you're working in a quick news fashion, you want to follow the nut with a quote. A very simple statement from someone who is at the event that gives context, life, and meaning to what you've just written.
Tell me, Tom, when did you boys start looking for Susie?
Well, this morning we were playing ball.
Now we follow that. The next graph, or the next couple graphs, would be what we call background. And that is the historical significance of the event you're writing about, maybe the events that led up to the moment that you just covered. Or think about it this way, the most important history that must be known if your reader can only read 4 paragraphs or sentence in a story. That is a very, very basic structure of a news story. I had an editor who was an asshole, but he used to say you only get 4 paragraphs. You gotta pack everything in there. In example of quick news stories, imagine you're writing a story but it could get picked up by the national or international wire. You only get 4 to 6 paragraphs tops. So what I just told you about those 4 paragraphs, once you get that done, repeat for whatever space you have left for your story.
Extra!
I work at a for university students as a news editor. Many of them have gone to official journalism schools. So my job is to essentially reprogram them and to make them into better writers. Now, George already talked about the structure of a story, but he also asked another very important question. Why should your audience care about what you're writing about?
I don't care!
Now, as you're writing your stories, there are 5 general points to keep in mind when writing. One of them is timeliness.
Miss Drew, the story of the Lambert inquest was on the street a half hour ago.
Did what you're writing about happen recently, or did it happen a long time ago? And if it did happen a long time ago, has it already been written about? Another important thing to think about when writing is where the conflict is in your story between who you're writing about. Because if there's no conflict of some kind, it's not going to be an interesting story. Are people talking about the issue you're reporting on? Is it being talked about a lot and recently? Because if the community that you're serving is talking about it, that means they're interested in it. And they probably want to hear more or read more. And the last one to think about is the proximity. Is what you're writing about relevant to where you're located as a journalist? Now, there are lots of problems that I see with writing that make me not a very nice person.
We'll take care of that.
One that is common with students at a university is it will be written like an essay paper, which means it will have very broad and very general statements that don't mean anything. The second thing that seems to be a problem is that people assume their audience already knows what they know, and that is not always the case, depending on your audience. If I were to write the EZLN in one of my articles, because of who my audience is, they would not know what that meant unless I explained it.
Extra, extra, read all about it. Extra.
Voy a hablar de un tipo de artículo que es el retrato de una persona. Cuando hacemos el retrato de alguien, no estamos escribiendo una biografía, no estamos escribiendo un libro. Entonces, por el tamaño del artículo, es importante que cada frase haya una idea o una información en esa frase. Y lo más importante es lograr interesar al lector, sobre todo si tu retrato es de una persona común. Por eso las 3 primeras frases son muy importantes, porque si no lo pierdes. Hay que saber que la mayoría de la gente lee las 5 primeras frases y si no les gustan, cambian. Antes de empezar sobre la escritura, hay que decir algo sobre las entrevistas que vas a hacer para ese retrato. Es como lo platicamos ayer sobre la investigación, lo mejor es nunca enseñar a las personas que vas a entrevistar que sabes muchas cosas de tu tema, porque así vas a aprender muchas más cosas que si la persona ya sabe que tú sabes muchas cosas que no te va a decir nada.